who's to say the environment is shitty? It's so subjective. It's your perception. We are all walking around as the lead character in our own stories. I can only control what I'm thinking about and the things that I'm doing.
Hey, Nicole, what do you get when a former corporate CEO and a do-gooding executive walk into a recording studio?
Well, Aaron, nothing, because the two of us are usually on my couch or Zoom because wine.
You get a podcast created for Gen X women who are bought into the corporate world but fed up with the BS.
I know. It's how to thrive the 9 to 5 or 6 or 7.
It's career therapy. It's comedy. It's definitely full-on authenticity. Basically, we give you tangible strategies to rise in your career without compromising everything else.
Because work doesn't have to suck.
Hey, welcome back to the Because Work Doesn't Have to Suck podcast. This is Erin, your co-host and former corporate CEO turned authentic leadership expert. I am taking over today. Nicole is doing other things while I get to talk to, along with you, our guest today, who is Andrea Butcher. And Andrea is the CEO of HRD, which is a leadership development company that she leads. And she's the author of 2 books and the host of Being at Work, which is a highly rated, very popular leadership podcast. And today we're talking about owning your journey in a shitty environment. And I got to be honest, I gave Andrea a tough interview. I admit off the bat that I'm not always the easiest on the HR function. And I think part of that is that there is some inauthenticity that runs rapid. And she gave some tough love back, which I love, which is also part of the reason I do that. But here's some of the things that you'll hear if you stick around. The first is some really tough love around why your shitty environment may be a you problem and what you can do about that. We'll also hear a story about a time that a male mentor gave her some pretty crappy advice and how that turned out. We'll also hear about her boardroom breakdown-ish. Sounds a little dramatic, but the positive things that came from that. It's a great story. And we also get her take on the future of work, employment, and some thoughts I had and her as an career HR executive, what she thinks of that, and then how you can prepare for it. What can you do? And then lastly, also a simple 5-word statement that I absolutely love that can be your leadership, like everywhere, not just at work, secret weapon. So I hope you enjoy the conversation with Andrea, and I hope you start owning your journey, even if you're in a shitty environment. So I'm going to start difficult. I'm going big.
I wish you would.
There's this question I think a lot of people have, which is, if everyone believes that leadership is so critical, whether it's the soft reasons, the hard reasons, Andrea, why are there so many shitty leaders? What do you think?
Because we're looking outside of ourselves. I think people are looking around them at evidence of leadership rather than looking within themselves and asking, what can I do here? Just this morning, I was podcasting about difficult employees or challenging team members. And in my experience, when I dig into that with the leader, most of the time, like, they have not created an environment for that person to really be successful, or for that person to be seen, or for that person to be who they really are and do things that are aligned with their strengths and gifts. And so it's always like, what's happening out there versus what am I doing? How am I shaping it? How am I influencing the reality of what it is? I think it's like that lack of self-awareness. That's the first thing that comes to mind when you ask that question.
Yeah.
Has that been your experience as well?
Yeah. I mean, I think, the road to hell is paved with good intentions until you get business pressures, management pressures. I think it's tough to be a great leader. It's good in theory, but when you're doing that while also facing deadlines, financial targets, et cetera, that gets really difficult. So I'd love to dive into that. Have you seen that? You've got great leaders. You obviously do tons of leadership training. You sort of swoop them out of their normal environment into this, this haven. And then they go back to the pressures,
Yeah.
the deadlines, the politics, all of that. What have you seen the difference between someone that's able to take your stuff, go back and outside of that bubble, put it in place versus those that probably lose it to all those things?
Yeah, I think it's their willingness is such a big part of it. They recognize the opportunity that they have. And when there's willingness to step into something new or uncomfortable or different, yeah, and the environment is supportive of them doing that. I think those are the things that make the difference. One of the things we say at HRD is training is for dogs and growth is for leaders. So I never think of leadership development as training. First of all, I feel like that would be really arrogant for me as a coach or a facilitator because it's self-development. I'm not going to train you on being more of who you are. My role is to create a safe environment where over time you're focusing on behaviors and actions and influence that is going to enhance the influence you have in your business or your environment. So accountability then naturally happens if we're checking in and we're coming back together and we're struggling together, and that's when growth happens. But having worked in so many different organizations doing that, the environment is absolutely critical. When we have a leader coming to us saying, hey, I want to empower my leaders or I want to grow them in this way, and they're genuinely excited about doing that, like that is the most important ingredient for success. If they're coming like, these people aren't getting results, these people aren't doing what I want them to do, or it's more of a check the box activity, like I'm not going to waste my time. Because then to your point, like it's probably not going to change. There's not going to be anything different that's going to happen as a result.
Yeah, that sponsorship is important. I would challenge you, though, that I'm sure you've seen this. The environment sucks everywhere. Is it just me? I'm sort of a hotbed of people. So whether maybe it's not that direct leader, but it's the macro, right? We've got downsizing. We've got doing 3 jobs with one. The treadmill just keeps getting faster and faster and faster over the last, 15 years. How do people get past that? Maybe the micro environment, their leader is good, but the macro is crazy. And I'm a big believer there, don't use an excuse, but what are some tangible things they can do to be a great leader in a shitty environment?
Well, and who's to say the environment is shitty? It's so subjective. It's your perception. I mean, we could probably go down a rabbit trail here. I so struggle with the duality of creating an environment and also people shaping the reality. I think those things go hand in hand, right? And at the end of the day, I can only control what I'm thinking about and the things that I'm doing. And so when I put my focus there, and it sounds so simple, but for me, when I put my focus there, feel better. And then naturally the things in my environment align up with that. I mean, I do think we are all energy. And I think we are all walking around as the lead character in our own stories. Many, many years ago, here's just a quick example. Many, many years ago, I was working, I was doing leadership development with a grocery store chain. And it was pretty early in my career. I was working with the store managers, doing some basic leader development. And so I had asked them, could I do some observation? Could I spend some time in some stores? I wanted to get a sense of their day to day. And I had an opportunity to talk with a couple of guys that were probably 15 or 16-year-old that were bagging groceries. And I don't remember the first guy's name, but he was just there because his parents had told him, you got to get out of the house and you got to get some money. So it was nothing about service or engaging or working for the store. I mean, it was about the paycheck. And not surprisingly, that showed up in how he treated customers and how he did his job, and very haphazard and kind of whatever. And then later that day, I talked to a guy named Tommy, and I don't know why, but Tommy had this attitude of, I get to do this service for these people. And he would with so much joy connect with people as he was bagging their groceries. And then not just bag their groceries, but say can I help you get these to your car? And And so when I was so fascinated by this, like same exact environment, but two people who chose a very different perspective. They had the same boss. They were working with the same people. They were working in the same store. They were working the same shift. So that's always stuck out to me I think we have more power over our environment. And it's interesting because there's so much work around the environment right now, but I just don't want us to over rotate to, you don't get a free pass. Like you also are shaping your environment based on how you think about your environment.
Yeah. Listen to that tough love back. I love that. That's tough love back. And, I think all of us need to soak that in, right? Because so many people bounce around from company to company and are like, what's going on? It reminds me of actually my father's favorite quote. It's, if you run into an asshole, you ran into an asshole. If you run into assholes all day, you're the asshole.
Absolutely.
And, I do think there's some realness. There is some crappiness. There is some pressures and speed and things in the corporate environment. But you're right. At the end of the day, you control that, and some of that is your addiction. So you hear the best thing I love about you is you hear, God, so many stories, and you wrote about these stories. So I said in the intro that you wrote 2 books or part of 2 books, The Human Resources Kit for Dummies, which is so cool. Anything for dummies makes you super cool. And then The Power of the Pivot. And specifically in The Power of the Pivot, you shared a lot of your stories, but stories of others as well. I know this is super big, but of all those stories in that book, like what was your favorite? I know that's tough, but what was the power of the pivot that sticks with you still to this day from that book?
Well, and it's probably because I know her well, but it's my friend Bridget Boyle who leads HR for Roche Diagnostics, a huge global organization, and she talks about the challenge in holding on to what has been. Anytime you're asked to step into something new, like it's, oh gosh, like, but where's my safety net? And so she just had to take the leap. And it was the vision of what could be that really got her to do that. And so one of the themes that I talk about in the book, as you mentioned, I got to talk to 52 leaders I write about in that book. And so the reason that the book came to be is because as I stepped back and looked across all those stories, I saw 3 really key themes. What brings power to those pivotal moments? And so the section that her story falls within is the power in going big picture, because we often get so stuck in the muck. And she was in the muck of this transition and she was having a hard time letting go. And it was when she really grasped onto the possibility of what could be, the vision for this new role, that she was able to let go a bit and take a risk.
What was that new role? What was that vision? Did she create that? Tell us a little bit more about.
No, it was a role that she was asked to step into, and she had a lot of imposter thoughts around it, like, this isn't something I had thought of. I'm not ready for this. I'm really good at what I'm doing today. I've got a good team. I've got a good foundation.
And what was her vision? Like, what was the transformation? She went from just like all the things that she was worried about not being able to do, et cetera. And then what was part of that vision that got her there?
Yeah, it was the possibility in this new role. Like, that's what was exciting. And here's what's cool about that is we all, no matter what the shitty situation, we all have the ability to imagine something different. And so that's what it was for, and I don't remember the details exactly of what that was, but I think the message in the story is challenge yourself to think beyond what is. And think about human beings are the only species in the animal kingdom that have the ability to do that, to project out of and imagine something different. I do this exercise with leaders a lot when they're struggling with that concept. If I'm teaching vision, I'll just ask them to turn to a partner and to just share their like dream vacation spot. Nobody ever struggles with that. And I end up having to really struggle to get them back because the energy in the room goes up. And so I just say so imagining something different, it's not a capability issue. Like, you all just did that.
Yeah.
So it's an intentionality. It's giving yourself the headspace and the time and having the courage, because it's easy to get in a pity party or like, woe is me, or become the victim around how this sucks so bad. Yeah, but what could it be?
What could
Close
it
your
be?
eyes, get quiet, and imagine something.
Hmm.
I'm feeling something. I want to say something.
Yeah.
And I don't, so let me just be raw here, because I love your podcast around being authentic. I want to go back to the point about, like, I'm going to call it standing in your power in a shitty environment. And I have been playing with that personally, because I have found myself in important relationships when the going got tough. I would cut and run. Like, well, not gonna be here, not gonna do this. Or I have dimmed my light. I have not said the thing. And so as I've been reflecting on this over the last couple of years, this whole idea of like just being who I am wherever I am, I realize that there are environments in which it is naturally easier for me to be whole, but it is not dependent on the environment.
Mm.
It is my confidence and my knowing. I think in order to be who you are, you have to know who you are. So much of the time, we've had so many different masks on. It's like, which one am I going to wear today? What if we took them all off and became that who we are really, wherever we are, without it being about anybody else in the environment?
Yeah, well, and imagine the possibilities with that. Hey, it's Erin. Look, I'm not sure if you're a book kind of person, but if you are, and you're looking for a self-development-y type book that isn't stuffy and snoozy, I sincerely think you'd love my book, You Do You-ish. I tossed aside the standard BS most nonfiction books dish up, and instead, I give you real, sometimes tough love coaching on how to think about getting the career you deserve without working harder. It'll reframe how you think about the concept of authenticity in the workplace. It'll be sure that you hear and rewrite your sucky songs, and walk you through my humans framework, the 6 principles of strategic authenticity. Since it's been rolling now for over 2 years, and it has over 130 Amazon reviews and a 4.9 rating, I can say with complete sincerity, I really think you'd love it. You can buy a copy by searching You Do You-ish on Amazon, or head to the show notes for a direct link. One of the stories you tell in the book is about your vulnerability in a boardroom situation. Yeah. Can you tell us about that?
I'm going to tell 2 vulnerability and boardroom stories. The first story that comes to mind is, so I was in a male-dominated environment, and I struggled in the environment. And my boss, the CEO, said, let's get you a mentor to work with. And I was so glad about that. Like, yes, I could really use a safe space to struggle through this. I mean, I'm a coach, and so I know the value in those kind of relationships. And so it was a male board member who was his buddy, who they'd worked together for a long, long time. And he comes into my office and says, he had seen me in a board setting multiple times. And he came in and said, I'm looking forward to working with you in this capacity, and me too. And I expressed gratitude and some desire around some things I wanted to grow in. And he said, well, before we work on those things, he was like, there's something super simple that I think you can do right away to have a lot more credibility. And so I am leaning in like, what? Yes, tell me, what's the thing? And he said, I think if you lowered your voice, the pitch of your voice is distracting. And if you just simply lower it and work on that, I think you would have a lot more credibility. So try that. So I did, Erin, and it felt awful. This is just the sound of my voice. I don't know. I mean, I guess I could alter that and adapt that and lower it, but it feels really weird. And now I'm having to focus on that versus really saying and doing the things that are going to be influential and helpful.
How many times did you lower your voice? Like for how long did you snap back?
Say for a good 6 months, I really played with that and tried to do that.
And how did it make you feel? Like, did it throw you
Awful.
off your game? Yeah.
Yeah. Like such a fraud. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I knew it. I knew it.
Yeah.
But I was also trying to build a relationship with him. And there was a part of me that thought he's going to see me. This is me trying.
Right. He's giving me his time if I don't sort of, yes, sir, and put it into practice, I'm not showing my gratitude or what have you.
Yeah. And then, so fast forward several years, just recently I found myself in a boardroom and we were talking about something related to our business that was emotional to me. And I could feel myself, I had a very specific point that I was making and I could feel myself getting emotional. I could feel the tears welling up. And several years ago, Andrea would have stopped talking. And for a split second, that was an option, but I didn't. And I continued and my voice cracked and I made my point. And it wasn't like full on waterworks, but there was a lot of emotion there with logic. And after the meeting, one of the leaders came to me and he said, thank you so much for your vulnerability. He said, that's what I've come to expect from you. And it has a lot of influence. Like that has a lot of influence. And so I was podcasting this week about that. And I shared the lawyer Barbie quote at the beginning of Barbie. Have you seen Barbie, Erin?
I have, but remind me. I know you've seen it multiple times. I saw your post.
I have seen it 10 times. I'm obsessed with it. At the beginning of the movie, she's talking to the Supreme Court and trying to make a case about something. And she said, this is making me emotional. She said, and I have no problem holding both emotion and logic at the same time. It doesn't diminish my power. It expands my power. And I think that's so true. And so I'm grateful that I had that experience, that I was able to do that. And then I got feedback that it was helpful in the moment.
Yeah. I mean, as an authenticity addict, right? I so support that. And the thing I think about most is, if nothing else, there's nobody that didn't hear what you had to say after that.
Oh, gosh. So
right. If nothing else, if you're sick of people not necessarily listening or multitasking, giving them something unexpected is, and authentic is the best way. So,
Well, and being okay with others being uncomfortable with that. I mean, I think that has been the thing that has held me back from sharing emotion in the boardroom is, what are they going to think? Or, oh my gosh, it's going to make them uncomfortable. Okay. So going back to the earlier point about, and I don't know if it's my age. I don't know if it's the growth I've done over the last few years, but I really want to live in a very whole way. I want the truth of me to be what shows up wherever I am and not to cower behind others' expectations and a lot of times expectations that I'm making up.
Right.
They've got their own story. They've got their own shit. They've got their own. Like, let them have that.
Yeah. There's something you said in sort of the beginning of your book, something about, staying in the tough moments. What does that mean to you?
Oh, gosh. Not cutting and running. Not like pressing in, paying attention. How am I feeling right now? What's the message in this discomfort for me? Why am I struggling? Why am I angry? I tell a story in the book about my daughter that taught me the lesson of staying in the tough moments and the influence of that. She was doing a theater class, an 8-week theater class, and she was given a Shel Silverstein poem to rehearse over the 8 weeks and then perform at the end. And so she killed it. She was every day practicing, and she was about 10 years old at the time. And, had never really had an opportunity to be on the stage. And just because of her gregarious personality, I assumed like she's going to like rock this. This is going to be her thing. And so we never talked about stage fright. And when performance day came, she was terrified, like not driving there, not until it was her turn to go on stage. And so she was standing in front of the audience, literally shaking from head to toe. And I put my camera down because I thought she's going to run off the stage. She's going to dig her head into my hip and she's going to sob. But she didn't. She did the entire performance. And it was really pretty bad and very, very shaky. But she got a standing ovation. Everyone, the crowd went nuts for her. And that moment so stuck with me because nobody was cheering for her because it was a good performance.
Yeah.
We were cheering because she was terrified and she did it anyways. And we've all been there so many times. Yeah. And I think of relationships. I think about the things I didn't say because because I would be shaky. And so I think about, even if I don't get the applause, how there's some force rooting for me to do the hard thing, to say it, even if my voice cracks, to say it, even if I'm shaky, even if I have no idea what I'm doing, with a gulp and a sigh. There's got to be some force that's like, yeah, that's good, especially if it's honest.
Yeah.
I want to pivot a little bit and talk about something that's sort of a hot topic right now, and that's restructuring, or I don't even know the latest terms of downsizing, layoffs, et cetera. Is obviously hitting a lot of industries right now. We're sort of back in that world. And, talk to me both if you're an HR professional listening or you're a non-HR professional. What can a leader do to affect those types of decisions, or to even minimize those types of decisions in a company? Because I think there's no greater thing that you want to try to protect, than at least good humans being laid off, right? Sometimes there's a poor performer or not great human, but a lot of times it's really great humans. What can people do differently tomorrow to shape that if they're feeling, I'm a victim, it's corporate makes the decision, et cetera?
Yeah. So I'll talk first to the leader who is leading people through exit. We have approached exits historically very transactional, and remembering that this is a human being. And so just showing some compassion and empathy is huge. And it's common sense. Like, recognize where people are. And so exiting with grace, exiting with dignity. And then on the other side, as the employee, gosh, I so hope that there's that compassion and then that support around. In those moments, allowing yourself to feel whatever you're feeling, having your people that you can rely on for support through that. And then at some point, hopefully getting to a place where you can start to imagine the possibilities of what can be from that. Right? But I think it's processing first, processing in a healthy way, right? With the people, or doing the things like something for me, if I'm feeling frustrated, challenged, like sitting here and doing work or trying to take action in frustration does not serve me well. So I'm going to take a walk with my puppy. I'm going to do a meditation. I'm going to listen to a piece of music. I'm going to dance. I'm going to do what I need to do to get to a good place, because I want to take action from that place, not from a frustrated, angry place.
Yeah, action is very therapeutic, even though it's the hardest thing to get to when you're having a tough time. Sort of on the heels of that question, I want to test and get your thoughts on a hypothesis of vision. Nothing I've really read, but I just sort of predict for the future of the workforce. And I'm curious your take. I think we're kind of at this tough spot where are a lot of sort of overworked, unhappy people, and we've got to constantly restructure also the corporation to get the costs down. And I think people more and more want to just do great work and not deal with the BS, right? The corporate trainings, the politics, the whatever, filling out the forms. And I sort of feel like in 20 years from now, instead of whatever it is now, let's call it, most companies are maybe 85% FTEs. versus 15% contractors, freelancers. I think that's going to flip, or at least get to 60-40, 50-50. I think we're going to start to see a place where employers see the value of just having freelanced contractors, and employees see the value of not having to deal with the overhead BS. Obviously, healthcare is a big piece of that, but you can buy healthcare, right? You can buy the benefits. And I think it's just a matter of time before one company does something like this, and others will follow. But I'm curious, what's your take on that? Do you think that's no way, or you think that is the future of work?
Absolutely. I mean, that's where the tide is going, for sure. I was with my daughter and her best friend, who are college seniors, and we were talking about, I was just asking them some questions last night about work and what they're thinking. And Audrey, my daughter's best friend, is studying marketing, and she already has several clients that she's doing freelance graphic design for. And so she was saying, like, I'm going to go to Greece this summer because I can do that work from anywhere. And like, what? So why would she get a job? Right. So yeah, I mean, I definitely think that's where it's going. And I think the pandemic certainly exacerbated that geography is not nearly as much of a thing.
Yeah.
I think there's lots of things like that have created this perfect storm that describe the workforce of the future.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was one of the biggest things people don't see in corporate, and I didn't see until I was out, is you start to see the shift. I always thought freelancing was marketing, IT, right? Advertising. It's across all functions. You've got fractional
everything.
Fractional everything. So a lot of our listeners might be like, oh shit, I'm in my 40s, right? We're mostly Gen Xers here, 40s, even 50s. That sounds great, but I'm, 2/3 of the way into my career. What advice would you give them to, I don't want to prepare, because I don't want this to be doomsday, but to maybe get the most out of, a shift towards this, more flexible arrangement?
I think for everyone to really reflect on, like, what are you really good at? What are you really good at? What specific value do you bring to organizations? That could potentially be a fractional thing, whatever that is. And I think that's where it starts, is everyone really thinking and getting clear on, what are my gifts? What do I bring? But I also think there is a place for, I also think it's choice in the kind of work that you want. I mean, I can think of some friends I have that really prefer the stability that corporate America brings. And so they're willing to put up with the BS because of the value prop of that organization,
Yeah. I can see it on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
What's the most uncomfortable pushback or controversial thing you've done in the name of putting human in resources? I know you talk a lot about the focus on the human, which I love. And I also am like, okay, Andrea, sounds great. But so what's something you've done to really sort of stir the pot, whether it was a specific time or, how do you put the human in resources, but have you done it in a way that maybe was looked at a little bit like, are you sure you should be doing that?
I focus a lot on the culture that I'm creating at HRD. Always starts with my leadership. I mean, you could probably look at just the little moments and how I show up with my team. And I think a lot of it probably is different. I'm very transparent. We approach performance and coaching and performance improvement with a ton of openness and vulnerability. And we, last year, there was a team member that was on a performance plan, and she ended up saying to us at some point in the process, like, yeah, you guys have been so clear and we've had so many conversations, like, I just don't think this is going to work. And so we were able to exit her with, I referred her to another organization. We were to do that with a lot of love and a lot of support. And I don't know. So maybe that's not controversial.
No, that's okay.
It's just humans.
I'd love to dive into that, though, because people listening are probably like, yeah. Again, I know I need to do that, right? We need to constantly be giving feedback, but either I'm too busy, don't want to sort of upset the apple cart, it never feels the right time. What do you guys do specifically at HRD and probably teach as well that's like tangible, tactical things that make it easier to have those conversations more often?
It's in the interactions. So it's in every interaction. The first time that you connect with a prospective employee, what's the conversation? What's the tone? What are you talking about? Every single team meeting, we meet as a team on Monday mornings, and we start all of our team meetings with positive focus. So everyone shares a personal and a professional positive focus. So I know what's happening with the leaders in my business. I know where their heads are. I know where their hearts are. I can use that information then every time I'm connecting with them throughout the day. It's in the little things. Like we teach, one of the things we teach is like, know your team. In order to grow your team, like you got to know them. You got to know their strengths. So we do a lot of assessment. We talk a lot about what fills us up and what drains us so that we can put people in a position. And I often think, so that's, and we're a small organization, so we're not real process heavy. Like of course we have processes and SOPs and systems, and all of those things provide a foundation from which we can have these moments. But let's not use the process as an excuse for poor leadership. It kind of goes back to our earlier conversation about, if a leader would say like, well, like I can't manage performance like that, Andrea, because of our performance review system. Well, that's just a form. That's just a system. Like there's nothing keeping you from seeing the human being in front of you. Like that's on you. Like you get to choose to do that if you want to. Yeah, it's people leadership is not for the faint of heart. Ken Blanchard shares a stat. 60% of all new people leaders fail in their first 2 years because we put people into these positions, people that have been really good at getting the stuff done. But now it's like what people leadership is I've got to get results through this group of people. So if I got to get results through this group of people, I've got to know them and see them. So maximizing all of the interactions you have and all of those touch points you have, every phone call, every email, like not taking that for granted. That is sending a message to people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think leadership, it's 180-degree difference in jobs, even if you're in the same department talking about the same thing and nobody sits you down and says, okay, now's the day your job's going to flip. Like it's going to swing like a solid 90 to 180 degrees.
Yeah. And it takes a lot of humility because it's no longer about you getting results. It's about this group of people, which is a very different mindset. And I love that. As I look back at my career, my 20 plus career, I've worked for 4 organizations. And the thing that I've done in every one of those is I have enabled a group of people. I collect people. So I love bringing people together and putting them in a position to do what really fires them up. And so not surprising, I've grown organizations and teams as a result of just putting people in a role that is aligned with their strengths and who they are. I mean, it's so simple, but it has been a recipe for success throughout my career.
Well, and I think you said something really critical there, a little bit, 10 seconds ago about what lights them up. And I think back to as people think about, this changing workforce and potentially doing something not sort of as a traditional FTE or even their next job, I don't think that even really matters. Like it's not just what you're good at, but also what fires you up and finding that, that middle ground. I think it's top of mind because our last podcast guest talked about the concept that like so many people are sort of stuck in those jobs they should do because they're really good at it. Like she mostly works with lawyers. And it's like, once you've got your law degree past the bar and you can do the hard things that they do, but a lot of times you're like, well, I'm good at it. And not a lot of people are good at it. So I should do it. But what are, and it's not even doing something different, but what are the components of the legal part that you're good at? But what are the components, for example, that you actually love to do? And how can you do more of those?
You got it. That's huge, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yes, because we can make of anything what we want to make of it. And so maybe it's not about what you're doing, but how and why. Just shifting that can change our experience of the whatever it is. Yeah, I think that's really important. I get so many people that reach out to me saying like, I want to do what you're doing. I want to do leadership development. Well, do it. Like, what's hindering you? Look at the people in your life and what is it that you want to, where do you want to develop? How do you want to coach them? So just start doing it.
Yeah.
Just start doing it.
So take those little steps, experiment, figure it, see how it goes. Hey, Erin here. Look, I am so happy you're here listening to the Because Work Doesn't Have to Suck podcast. But I'm also guessing that some days it can be tough to get over here. And you may not always have the time to throw in your earbuds for half an hour or an hour. So if you also want career and leadership tips, inspiration, and quite frankly, professional pot stirring, the best bite-sized way to get that from me is to connect on LinkedIn. Almost daily, I share tips, inspiration, and humor to help you, maybe your less than authentic boss too, be more authentic at work. You can find me by searching my name. I'm literally the only Erin Hatzakostas in the world, or at least the online world. So if you can spell it, you can find me. Or we make it easy. You can scroll down to the show notes and click the link there. See you there. So I'm going to ask where people can follow you, and then I have one final question for you. But where's the best place to stay connected, learn about you, about HRD?
Yeah, LinkedIn for certain. I put a lot of content on LinkedIn. I spend a lot of time there. So Andrea Butcher at LinkedIn is the best place.
Yeah, and I love your content. I love you. This wasn't my final questions, but I will say you just posted, "Please stop calling me kiddo," which totally struck a chord. Did you say so? I'm sure if you're a woman listening, you know that being called kiddo, it's usually some older male. It feels like you're not quite qualified to do what you do. They're sort of treating you like their child, and it happens often. And if you're a male, stop saying that.
Yes, just stop saying it. There's no place for that. It's ridiculous. I'm a 48-year-old woman and I have a name. Let's use that.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're fine. Like us women, we're fine with guys. Like we get, that generic, like I am anyway. I'm okay with anything but kiddo. Kiddo definitely struck a chord with me. So final question. I loved it. You just recently had a podcast and you talked about Dr. Mercurio.
Yeah.
And he had a phrase that you've been using and stuck with you. And it really sort of made me pause. And I just thought we'd leave the audience with this inspirational. Can you tell them what that phrase is and
five magic words? If it wasn't for you. So Erin, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have had an opportunity this morning to peel back the layers a little bit and learn more about myself. Thank you for that. It's consistent with his work around ensuring that people feel like they matter. And when you fill in that sentence, if it wasn't for you, for anyone. I shared recently about, I was at the Atlanta airport and the woman that I was buying a bottle of water from, I noticed everybody just kind of very quickly doing their transaction and getting on their way. And so I said to her, like, thank you so much. If it wasn't for you, I would be so thirsty. And I took a drink of my water. You could tell she was like, what? Like somebody sees me? And we had a good conversation. So if it wasn't for you, 5 magic words.
I love it. That's so good. I can't wait to start using that. I just hired somebody on TaskRabbit that is hopefully going to be retrieving 2 hockey sticks we left in New Jersey and shipping them back to us because I'm in big trouble. I was said parent at this hockey tournament, and I think it's a great example, like to say it to people, even that you're going to be paying, because if this guy comes through, which it seems like he will, and he gets them shipped to me, and we get our sticks, and we save ourselves 400. Like, I can't wait to use the line, if it wasn't for you, we would have had to spend another $400 on new hockey sticks or whatever. Yeah.
Yes, because he matters.
He matters.
That he's doing. It matters.
Matters. Yeah. I love it. It's such a great lesson phrase. And if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have a name for this episode because I already wrote down standing in the power of your shitty environment, which I think is, and I think that so much we learned, but I think we really should be hearing that, you control it. You control it. And that shitty environment's it's probably going to be everywhere. It's what you do and how you see it and the actions you take. And if it weren't for you, I think a lot of people listening would have gone on being miserable. And I am certain that many will have changed because of this.
Hey, it's Erin with a teeny request. If you have ever gotten any value from this podcast and you'd like us to stick around, plus you want it to continue to grow so we can kind of swindle bigger and more knowledgeable guests to join us and to keep providing you with tangible and inspiring actions you can take to achieve the career and life you deserve, could you please just take 1 minute to leave us a rating and a review? Those reviews go a long way in attracting guests to the show, and candidly, they really make Nicole and I's day. And we see you. We really do. So when you have the time and inspiration, we'd love to see a rating and review from you. Thank you.